Welcome. You're tuned in to the We Are All Artists podcast, a space where we talk about living life as a conscious creative. I'm your host, Adriana Douglas. Our intention is to support you throughout the process of discovering your inner artist and transforming from the inside out. Here in this space, we believe that the way out is through. On the other side is a world with more art, more beauty, and access to more of you. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with me today. And now let's begin. To help you ring in the new year, I have something new for you all. I made a free resource guide of all the things that have helped me over the past few years and essentially what blueprint I wish I had when I was starting out a journey of living more intentionally. This blueprint is for you if you are a DIYer, if you want to get an idea of some of the areas that I really like to go into detail with when I work with folks, and or if you really just want to get a jump start on your journey and you want to do it independently at the moment without any further support from a community or a mentor and feel that this would be supportive in getting you oriented to a new way of being. I really believe that if you pick just one of these books or one of these areas that you will learn a lot about yourself and have so much more awareness and compassion for the journey. And my wish for you is that this guide makes you feel more inspired and more connected to yourself and gets you to take that next right action for you on your journey. Hi friends, happiest of New Year's to you. Today on the show, we have Annie Rees. Annie is a passionate body artist and creative empowerment coach. Her mission is to guide women in unlocking the lives they envision by harnessing the power of creativity. She believes that the blueprint for the life that they desire already exists within their thoughts, and her role is to empower them with problem-solving tools to bring that vision to life. Together, you will embark on a journey of self-expression and transformation when working with Annie. On today's episode, we talk about so many creative things that get me really excited. First and foremost, we talk about the idea for body art and where that came from. We go into what the difference is between classic art therapy and body art, and also what it's like when you're going to have a body art session with Annie. Another thing that we chat about is really when you're going through the process of making and then sharing your artistic expression and sometimes what that can feel like, and releasing the pressure of art as a full-time job. I know you're going to have so many takeaways from this episode, and I cannot wait to hear them. Hi, Annie. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
It's so good to have you here.
So good to be here.
I was so excited when I found I met you through the Goddess Collective with Mel Wells. And then when I found your profile on socials, I was so captivated by your work that I needed to know more. I just immediately was so drawn to how your work captivated my senses. I was completely engaged and wanting to immediately was I want that. I want that experience.
Oh, that's such good feedback. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I would love for you to share with the audience a little bit what I mean, what I haven't even said what I'm talking about. What captivated me and what you've been focusing on lately is body art. So I'd love to start there and hear how that came to life.
Yeah, good question. So I'll break it down as two parts: where it came from, how it manifested, how it was birthed through me. I was living in Costa Rica and I was selling my art in restaurants there. And I was living with a friend and I had all my spray paints, all my paints, but no canvas. Okay. So I really wanted to make this creation. I had all these different green shades of spray paint. I was going to make a jungle. And then I ended up using my friend as the canvas. And she was like, I don't mind, like, let's just see how it goes. I ended up using her as a canvas, and I was like, there's something to this. Like, there's a reason why I have no canvas right now, and I need to understand what's happening right here. And from that moment, I knew that I would do body art. Like, I knew that there was something there that I needed to create in and give. And the feeling that my friend had when she was like, in all this art. She was like, "This is amazing." I was like, "Oh my God, if this is like shifting her energy, what's it gonna do to like the people out there that actually would really need this?" So as it kind of went on with time, I took a note. I didn't act on it straight away. I kind of just put it to the side and thought, okay, there's something to that, but I'm gonna pick it up when I feel called to, when I feel to investigate it. I'm not gonna push it. So I would say another 6 months went by. And at that point, I was moving my life then from Texas back to the UK. My friend in the UK, who's a photographer, we've always known we're going to collaborate somehow. And I was very into doing my own body art with her. So I would actually, at that point, kind of paint myself with her photography and then have photo shoots of myself to use later on for what I didn't even know. So you can kind of see how these things are coming together, and it's kind of is meant to be, let's say. So when I got back to the UK, she was like, Annie, now's the time. Now you're back here. We need to make the most of this, and we need to use your art and my photography, and we need to put that together. And I was like, okay, cool. And it just so happened that I could look at each individual person, each woman, and go, there's that color to you. There's that vibrant color to you that I need to bring out in you. Like, there's something inside of yourself, like a feeling or an urge that needs to come out of you, but you can see that that person needs this particular color on them. And the way I kind of work is very different to any other body artist. It's very intuitive, it's very expressive. And as time has gone on with more and more women that I've done the body art for, and they've been able to have the photo shoots and have something to take away with them, is actually a deeper message of body art allows you to reconnect back to yourself. Some women don't even know that they are disconnected from their bodies for whatever reason in their past. And they need to come back to self, but they need a better way of doing so, in a playful way, an expressive way, in a feminine way. So that's how it all came about. And it's so heartwarming and so rewarding to see people that actually are able to bring themselves back into their bodies through tuning into the sensations of where I'm painting on them, or visualizing what they want, or we're co-creating together, we're collaborating together. So that is what I do.
I love it. And it excites me. And one of the things that excites me about it is the playful way versus more serious. For someone like me who's been very intellectual, sometimes it can feel quite heavy to be like constantly processing feelings verbally or via journaling, both amazing methods in the right time and place. But this way felt a lot more liberating and a lot more lighthearted, even though I bet a bunch of emotions kind of come up throughout the process. But
Yes.
all in all, it feels playful, as you said. And so, and therapeutic in a way, in art therapy, in an art therapy type of way. Would you Would you call this art therapy? Would you call it something else? Does it have like a kind of place that it fits, or does it stand on its own?
I would definitely put it in the category of art therapy, but I wouldn't class it as the typical art therapy that's been taught.
Okay.
So, just to kind of put into perspective for people that are listening, art therapy, as we all know, is a way to de-stress, to reduce your anxiety through maybe journaling prompts, through creativity, through these things. But the body art itself, for the individual, you are receiving, you're not doing. And when you're receiving, but you're collaborating, it allows your state, your nervous system to go into your body to then experience and feel what is up for you in your heart, what's coming up for you. And just as an example, the women that I've worked with, they will co-create a visualization for me. So I recently did a tribal woman. I didn't know her background story, I didn't know her experience, but I knew that she really wanted to bring out this dark feminine energy of tribalism. And as I was painting her, she was like, "This is really overwhelming because I recently fighted breast cancer, and this is my time to go. I fighted you, you know, if I can swear, f you,
Yeah.
basically,
Yeah. Yeah.
and this is now where I'm at, and I've overcome it, and I am strong. I am a tribal woman, and this is me." And the photo shoot, the energy that came out in that was insane. And then you have the other side, which is like another example would be a woman that I also did body art with. She wanted all floral things, really soft things, and that was beautiful. And as it all came up, the art therapy side of things in the body art, she's like, "I haven't had a selfie of myself ever. My husband's never seen me naked. Like, this is so big for me." And then you hold that woman in that emotion, in that space, and you get them back to self-regulation in the process of you doing it on them. So it is very art therapy. However, it is a playful, light-hearted way that you can enjoy the process yet feel your feelings with someone.
The huge thing that I heard you say was that they get to receive and they don't have to like do. It's like you're painting on them, so they really get to slow down and feel what it feels like to receive and not have to like work so hard to transmute something.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that. It's really powerful. And in the process, have you, whether with the body art you've done on, I say on yourself, or does someone else paint you? Let's go there. When you do body art, does someone else paint you or do you paint yourself?
I have had people do it on me in the past, but when I have a visualization for myself, I find it hard to communicate it. I have to do it myself, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I feel like I'd be so like lost, like in front of a mirror, I guess.
I just kind of like do it really abstracty and like kind of throw the pen and like, okay, that's working then.
I
Like,
love that. What I'm curious, how do you set up for this? Because once paint is on, is it really flexible or can people move or are you kind of like painting them into
yeah,
a pose? Like what's the
that's such a good question, actually. 'Cause no
Yeah.
one really sees it on the day of what actually it like what if you can move, you know. Answer to that question is you can move. It's like water soluble paint. As soon as you get in the shower, it just comes off. You don't even need like any kind of shower gel. If you were to have it's called gold leaf, like uh the only way I can describe it for the people that are listening are a kind of foil, a gold foil that I stick on them depending on where it is on the body. Say, for example, if it's on the woman's shoulder or their collarbone, they can put their arm up like this. However, it will add it will add effect, to be honest, of crinkles in there. like regardless if you have foil on you or not, if you do have the foil, it will crinkle anyway as you move, but it will just be a bit more crinkled when you move your arm up and down. That's the only thing you have to be careful of, but intentional of what you want in the photos and how you want to stand in the photos. But everything else you can move. You can be as free as a bee, you know?
Do you you know I'm asking all these because I'm like want to do it so badly.
Yeah,
So do the paint.
yeah.
All right. What about body hair? Is the paint thick enough to cover body hair, or do people have to come like prepared?
No, you don't have to come prepared. Like you can literally show up as you want. Like you do like the paint goes through body hair. Like it's amazing. And glitter as well. Glitter works perfect. So yeah.
Okay. Do people get their makeup done for it too to be more of like a formal shoot, or is it again doesn't matter, kind of come as you are?
Doesn't matter. Like a lot of women, to be honest, a lot of women do their own makeup. It's not essential. Depends on the look you want to bring out. If, for example, you wanted to bring out like the tribal woman vibe, it does help to have makeup that matches the body. And
Yeah.
if you can match the face to the body with the darker like eyeshadows with like bold eyes, then do it yourself. But if you
Okay.
find that you find it a bit challenging, then yeah, it would be beneficial for you to have someone to do your makeup as well.
Okay. And so maybe walk me through who would be a good candidate for this, because I know we talked about this a little bit, and there is sort of uh, maybe a little bit more of a specific persona that might go toward this expression form of expression versus somebody that might take a different route or do something else before they're ready for this.
Yeah, good question. So the body art that I do is very aimed at women that want to be more connected to themselves. Is not for any other reason but for yourself. And if you are wanting to have body art done for other reasons that are external from you, I would question it again. And that is the truth, honest, rawest answer I can give.
Absolutely. It's a really good point, and connection to self is everything. I mean, on a path of creativity, once you start to realize that we're all creative, we all have our ways that we can express ourselves. I feel like that journey back to self is so important, no matter which way you do it, but the main point, as you're saying, is for yourself, not to exhibit, obviously you want to share your art, right? As well. So like let's talk about that as well. Like sharing art is so critical, I feel like, once you start making art. But I've always had this difficulty of understanding, like, oh, what art do I want to share? And what art did I just make because I felt like making it? And what art am I like never going to share? Has that happened to you before with some of your various creative
Yeah,
endeavors?
good question. To be honest with you, every creation that I have done, it's almost like it just has to come out of you. You have no choice.
Yeah.
Like, if you choose not to create, it's like your physical, your mental, your emotional, your spiritual health will dim. And if you don't get that out of you, like a sponge, you're like squeezing the sponge to get the water out, and that's the art, then it's almost like, for me personally, it's like my light has dimmed. It's like I can't express everyday life like I would if I hadn't have done the art. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
with the particular pieces of art, which ones I show, which ones I don't, is all based on feeling. There's no logic in creations in art. You know this. Like there's nothing to it, yet there's everything to it. But when we are really in that moment of there's something to that I really love, when you feel that lust of love and like expansion in your heart and your body, and you're so connected to yourself, and you're looking at your creation, and you're like, I love that for a split second, regardless if you think it's done or not. Because this is one thing with artists, the hardest thing you have is to decide when your art piece is done. I could go forever. But to have that boundary of, right, okay, Annie, we need to stop now. And to still be like, I love that. That is when you put it out to the world.
I feel that so deeply. I agree with you. One, that what wants to be created has to be created, or else you start to kind of get restless in a way. And two, the timing, you talked about this earlier, the timing and not pushing the creations. Like you don't, sometimes you don't know how it's going to come together. But then also this other part, like you're saying, of knowing when it's complete and saying, okay, this is complete. I'm going to release it and I'm no longer going to be refining it. Because I've found myself in refining periods for long periods of time. And then you're like, what do I do with it? And that's when I think I start to go up to the mind. The logic comes in. Um, and then you're no longer in that flow.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what, as well, like, I wish someone had told me earlier that with with art, with any creative role that you do, one of the best things I did for myself was to not put the pressure on myself to do it as a full-time job. Because when I let that go and I was like, okay, a part-time role in something that I still enjoy, that's still in the creative zone, but I'm not fully working for myself, I am a contractor, that allows me to step outside of that creation I'm making. And when I put my focus elsewhere and I come back to it, I've got a fresh pair of eyes. You know?
That's really helpful for anyone listening because there's such a narrative on the internet about, you know, working for yourself or starting a business, being an entrepreneur,
Mm.
following your passion, creating your art. But sometimes I feel like nobody talks about these pieces where it's like, yeah, but if you just quit tomorrow and start making your art, the pressure that
Oh,
comes in. And again, some people, I feel like human design and nature might be like, I love pressure and I'm gonna like go for it. But for me, that's not in my design. My design's like, you need to have some structure and stability so you can feel inspired to make the thing. And so I love
yeah.
that you said that because I definitely feel like for those that are just starting to explore their art, it would be helpful for them to know like you don't have to figure it out overnight. And also it's like these micro steps to then I don't know if you immediately went part-time or if you had a full-time role before and once you realized the art and the this expression that wanted to come out if you then went part-time, but I think that talking about this is important.
It's so important. And to be truthfully honest, like, the reason why I say it is because I was one of those people that decided from my own business before that, I was going to completely stop that business. I was going to go into creativity and I was going to make my now full-time living out of it. And I did that jump. And I was one of those people that was like, I'm going to go all in on this. And it ended up, I was homeless. I was broke. I had no home. And I was living in Costa Rica. And it wasn't until I was like, okay, I've learned this lesson that I need to take pressure off myself because when I have pressure, I can't create. There's no inspiration. It's dimmed. So what is this base, this stability base that I need, like you said, that I need the safety, security, and the stability there to then build your blocks of creation. You can't build on like water. You
Right.
because there you have nothing there
Right.
to have your stability. And no one's saying to get a part-time job that you hate.
No.
Why don't you do a part-time job that, or even something that's like 10 hours a week, if you really want to limit it to something that is creative, that is maybe something you didn't ever think that you would do, but you get the inspiration from these other roles that you do. And that's where I'm honestly, this is such a good reminder for me at times is these other roles, these other things I do is where I find my inspiration and that allows me to create.
I definitely resonate with that because as I've created this podcast, I've also found in a positive way that there are other parts of me that are like, hey, we want to be expressed too. Like, don't forget about us. And
Mm.
so it's been really interesting to see, like, once you have something, a dream realized or a manifestation come into form, that then other things come up. It's not like, oh, I've decided to do body art, I've decided to do a podcast, and now I'm done. It's like you're just getting started and knowing then how to work with all the parts that come up as you navigate creatively expressing because it can feel really vulnerable, like extremely vulnerable, especially body art.
Yes, 100%. One of the most vulnerable things you could do is put your art out there. And you know what? There's a very close link between creation and creativity with self-development because one thing I noticed a while back was it required a lot of vulnerability to put your art out there because one of the reasons why I was so scared is because I didn't want people not to like my art. And I was like, that's interesting. Let me notice that. And where is that linked in my own life? So it was like a mirror. And then I realized from that that actually I had this like belief that wasn't serving me of I want to do so much to be liked. And that had such a correlation of my art piece of not wanting to put in the world because I don't want people not to like it. And then like not wanting to do something because I wanted people to like me or to overgive because I wanted people to like me. And that was a there's so many breakthroughs and insights you can get from creating as well.
How did you manage, maybe two questions. How did you manage looking at those patterns from that witness place? Because I agree that is a very powerful place to come from, being like, that's interesting. I'm so curious. And also, did you experience or do you experience this like vulnerability hangover once you've shared? Sometimes I feel that way. Like it's interesting as I watch podcast episodes being scheduled, like when I have them scheduled for release, some
Mm.
some for me are more vulnerable than others. And so I know I start to notice where I get a little bit of that, ooh, like, oh my gosh, people are gonna hear this. Like, oh my God, what's gonna happen if they know that I'm like not perfect and human, you know? And it's like this interesting dance. So I'd be curious what your experience is with the vulnerability piece once you've expressed.
So I think your question one is very much linked to IFS, which we like. I know you love it as well. It's changed my life. It's changed your life. I'm probably sure because you learn a lot about it, which is
I learned a little bit. It's very powerful. I'm not an expert by any means. Beginner status, but
okay.
the
Okay.
concept is amazing to me. So if you want to share with listeners what it is, that'd be cool too.
Yeah, of course. So IFS came around for me. I was working with a neuroscientist who was helping me um, connect my body to self. What is self? How are we connected? And these different parts of ourselves. So we've got our firefighters, and we've got our exile parts, and then we've got our self. And it's not so much a masculine approach way of let's try get back to the eight parts of self, which is all C's, by the way. So you got your courageous part, your compassionate part, your God, my mind's gone blank now. Courage, compassion,
Actually, I have
creativity.
them. If you, I have them right here too.
Yes, read them out.
Okay. All right. The eight C's: calmness, clarity, compassion, connectedness, confidence, courage, creativity, curiosity. I just got these the other day, literally it's the first time.
Amazing.
but I put it on my desktop.
I love that. So we've got those 8 C's. And I always view this, I'm very playful, right? The aim of the game is not to get to those 8 C's. The aim of the game is to actually notice and witness all parts of yourself in a loving way. And to notice these parts of yourself that have been adopted since childhood. You know, some of them serve us, some of them don't. And it's looking at them and seeing, right, I've got a really strong part to me that is a protector part. And protector parts can come up in working too much, overworking, addictions, all these other things. And I think for me, I was definitely overworking at some point, and that allowed my nervous system to go in fight or flight response pretty much all the time. And so your question to the first one would be noticing is the biggest thing and the best thing you could possibly do. Because when we notice and get curious, that automatically allows non-judgmental on yourself. So you're not judging yourself when you're getting curious around yourself. You're just noticing, you're witnessing. Say, for example, I was to see a part of myself that was like, oh, like why did that part of me just show up? How does that show up in other parts of my life? Like, where was the earliest part that I can ever remember of this part coming up? And it's literally just creating a deeper bond to yourself. So that was the first piece. The second piece that you said about the vulnerability of your art and how that process, when you send it out to the world, that feelings that you have inside is different for everyone. Like you said about yours.
Yeah.
I would definitely say my experience when I put something out in the world, depending on what the creation is, there's some creations that I've done that are like short reels online on social media that I have not even thought twice about, that I've been
Right.
like, okay, bye, like let's get that out of the way. And then there's like other ones that I spent more time on, been more intentional about. And those are the ones that are the most daunting to put out there. And I've noticed in that moment of me putting it out there that I experience a protector part of me that wants to come in and like save me through disassociation of my body. I switch off. I don't want to know. And I'm like gone. And I've worked and worked for months to bring that and shorten that gap, because I used to be disassociated for at least a day afterwards. And now
After
I've
the
shortened
post or after the expression.
after the like either expression that I've put out
Yeah.
there, after I've put the piece of art in a restaurant, after I've
Mhm.
put a piece of art on Etsy,
Okay.
after I've done the body art.
Okay.
Actually, body art is the only one I haven't been disassociated in my body. That's something I've just noticed literally live.
Live.
How amazing. But yeah, it's not about getting there as quick as possible. It is that process of getting curious and also noticing and catching yourself out sooner rather than when it gets too far down the line and then you're more dysregulated and it's gonna manifest in worse ways. But it's always an ongoing thing. It's for anyone to say that when they put their creation out there that it's nothing is lying.
I feel so much connection with what you said about the disassociation, because that's something that I didn't understand before. Well, disassociation in and of itself, but the what you were just sharing about the shortening the time. It's like you're not trying to go from like uncovering a pattern that is like been with you and you has protected you for your whole life or however long, to then working with the part or the pattern, and then the next day being like, I don't disassociate anymore. Like, at least for me, like it just doesn't work like that, right? Like you were saying, it's like, oh, I shortened it. Instead of a day, it's half a day. Or instead of an hour, like I went and restored and replenished, and now it was like 5 minutes after the post, right? Like there's definitely a moment where you have to be so proud and celebrate that that was the progress, wasn't like this, like, oh, I'm out of the pattern now forever. Like these parts were here for good reason, right? They yeah, they love protecting us. And it's amazing because I remember, I don't know how you feel about this. So I'd be curious to know. For me, the reframe from self-sabotage to protector was like really huge for me because I no longer felt like I was like against myself. It was more like I was trying to, like you said, save or support myself in the way that the body knew how. So I don't know if that
Yeah.
has come up for you or if you still use that terminology, but that was something that I reframed.
Yeah, 100%. Like, so to put a playful twist on it, because I found it very, the neuroscience part of IFS, I can do it. I can process all these things intellectually, logically, but for it to stick for me, I have to do it in a playful way for it to really stick. So these protector parts, I would give them names.
Cool.
So I would give, and I would see it as a playful thing and
Yeah.
not when I switched it from that self-sabotage, like you said, and put it into like, oh, that's my inner critic coming out again. She's right there next to me, literally holding my hand today. Like she can like let go of my hand a little bit if she likes. Like, or another one would be like there's a rebellion part of me. Like I can be rebellious at times. It was only today I was actually saying it to a friend that I actually did this neuroscientist course with. And I said to her I was doing a workout at the gym and I had all these things I need to do at the gym. And I said to her, I was like, right, I've got the rebellious part of me coming out. She's like, F this, I'm off. I've got my inner critic that's coming out going, you're not doing it right. This movement pattern's not right. I've got my high achiever part that just wants to do her best. Then I've got my inner child coming up that's like having a tantrum, like, I'm out, I'm bored. So I've got four parts of me coming up at the gym. And then on top of that, we're meant to be present. Like, what? This is so much. Like,
You
no
have
wonder
to
what.
laugh. You have
Huh?
to laugh. You have to laugh at that point because you're like, I'm just trying to lift a weight. And
Yeah,
four
literally.
parts are like, here. It's so true because then people, I feel like people are so hard on themselves bef before kind of realizing this playfulness. It's like, oh, I
Mhm.
can't believe I don't want to go to the gym again. It's like, no, like look at what you're working with. Like everything you just described. Like that's why you don't want to go to the gym. It's not like don't there's I think for me it's been this coming out of blame, coming out of victim. And I know there's been a lot of folks that talk about going from victim to then conscious creator. And
Mm.
that's something that I think has been really interesting as a topic in terms of everything being art, your life being art,
Mm.
your work being your art. Is that something
Yep.
you've experienced in terms of once once you take the responsibility of consciously creating that kind of everything changes?
Yes, in a feminine way, I noticed.
Okay.
Because I've had it so you can hear it in the sigh. There's another part of me right there. Um, Previously I've very much tried to change from victim to conscious creator in a masculine way.
Okay.
And by masculine way I mean the doing and the to-do list is very long and I'm out in the world and I'm collaborating, doing this, doing that, and showing up here, and then I'm on there, and that led me to burnout. which then led me back to victim mentality.
It's a little cycle.
Cycle. Yeah, correct. So I then, when it was this cycle of, oh, I'm burned out, oh, I'm not even getting where I want, oh, and then I'll get run the cycle again, and then it'll be even worse. I then noticed, okay, this is a way that's not serving me. I need another way. And what is this way that allows me to still create, be that conscious creator, get where I want to be, but also allow me to know that I'm there and I'm there now in that being. So I kind of noticed of I need to do less, but know that I'm still doing enough. So when I was in that conscious creation, is that when I was able to do it in a feminine way, that was obviously creativity is part of the thing I do anyway, but do it in a way that was more expressive, reducing the doing as much as possible and seeing actually what 20% of what I'm doing right now, can I focus on that and see and make sure this 20% that I'm doing is getting 80% of the way there of what I was doing before. And that really shifted it for me, where I was able to be like, okay, this is the doing part, and that's okay. Now this part is where I'm being and I'm expressing, I'm reevaluating and I'm reflecting and I'm being in this moment. And that actually broke the cycle of going back to a victim mentality. And I literally just recreating and conscious creating more, and that's where it's got me, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So that shift of recognizing that was the 80/20 that you were describing. How has that now then supported you in making a business around this? Or we didn't really get into your origins of business like fully in the interview, but how has this supported you now with your business, with having creativity as part or as really a business? And then it sounds like you might work part-time
Mm,
elsewhere.
yeah. So two parts to that. One, I've learned I need to ask for help when I need it. How that help may look like. We spoke earlier, like hiring someone to do my content. You
Yeah.
know, these things like it's okay to ask for help. Um, and this doesn't just go for your business, this goes for personal. So outside of business, I have someone that, yes, I know how to do my own personal training stuff because that's where I came from, that's where I originated with personal development,
Yeah.
but I need someone at that moment in time in my life to do that for me, that gives me free time to do what I love to do. It gives me that space. So asking for help was a big one. um I've lost track of where I am. What was the question?
We were talking about the way that you've managed now in this more 80/20 rule,
Mm.
the creativity in business. Like, what kind of changes did that mean for business when you shifted from this burnout cycle to then going into a more relaxed way of still getting work done and still creating, but also allowing the space for creation to come through, more expression to come through?
Yeah, so that asking for help piece was a huge part, um, especially in the business part. The getting another role somewhere else. So I am a contractor for teaching creativity for young kids.
Well,
And you know what? They spark my creativity more than ever.
I bet.
They really, because if you think about it, kids that are in school, everything is don't do this, do this. This is the answer. This is not the answer. We are teaching kids to be very black and white and very uh like what's right and what's wrong.
Hmm.
And how is a child meant to be able to express their creativity when all they are learning is what is right, what is wrong? And if something's wrong, then they're not good enough in that, or maybe that subject's not for me. Whereas when I come into the creative space of teaching these kids creativity and allowing them to learn that there is no wrong way of doing this, that shift that I see in these kids is like, oh, really? Like really? And it breaks my heart, because I see them go, really? Like, are you sure? And they're still asking me, like, is this okay? And I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Like, did this come from you? Yes, it did. That's perfect. And what do you see in this? Why did you create this the way you did? And like these questions, there's no right or wrong answer here. Like, I'm not trying to test you. All I want is you to just create from what's within you. And that is the most liberating thing for them, but also for me, because I'm able to have inspiration of, okay, I'm literally helping people bring out their expression in real time, but also from their and witnessing their response gives me that inspiration to then do my own work.
That's so empowering for them and inspiring. And to me, also like systemically with where we are, like also makes me a little bit sad because so many adults got brought up with that mentality of right and wrong and like yes and no and like can't do this, can't do that. So like you wonder why I feel like we have like a creativity sort of I say issue, but just because there's so many people that think they aren't creative or can't do it or aren't allowed to do it. But
Yeah,
what you're sharing is so powerful that to bring new generations with that feeling of like they can create, they will create. Any creation is perfect in its own way.
yeah, this is it. This is it. Because even in schools, they still, even if they do touch on art, is very much like, okay, the art needs to look like this. You have to achieve this at the end of the art lesson, and it has to be this. Whereas you have, there's nothing out there that is like, I want you to create what's inside of you. Like, what curriculum ever does that? None.
None
So,
that
yeah.
I've heard of. Yeah, they're usually, if I remember art class from high school, it was always like a theme or a painter, and it was like, try to make this. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah,
good
yeah,
at
yeah,
that.
yeah. Yeah, literally. See this apple? Paint it. Like,
That's hard. That's hard. It's hard for those of us that are now recovering creativity. It's a challenge.
yeah,
It's a
it,
challenge to recover it.
yeah. What would
There's
you
so
call
much
that? Like a recovery, what would you
creative.
call
I don't know. That's from like the artist way, like right, artist recovery, like recovering
that?
creative. So, but I feel like it, but it goes back just to kind of bring the conversation full circle. Recovering your artistry, I feel like goes back to that journey of self-development. Like there was no way, at least in my experience, there was no way to not discover myself when I was discovering art. It was like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they're
Completely.
intertwined and they're parallel and sometimes they're together, sometimes they're yeah, right next to each other, but there was no way to ignore the self-discovery piece, which
100%.
is why I like talking about this because it's like art and development, self-development hand in hand. So I love
It's,
that.
and you know what? Like, the deeper you meet yourself, the deeper your artwork is. And that will
Mhm.
hit more.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. Are there ways that people can work with you apart from body art at this time?
Yeah. So I do group online at the moment that I'm actually launching as of next year. So
Oh.
that's super exciting. So if you were to want to do that, it's actually recreating your creations, which is wherever you feel that you are dimmed in your creativity, in your life, in your playfulness about that, and how you can just create consciously without even having to put as much effort in. Like, this is that course for you. I'm doing it starting January. So I don't know when this podcast will be out, but it will probably be around that time
Yeah.
anyway. Um, I do have a YouTube that talks all about the creativity and the creative process and art therapy activities, tools that you can use, mindfulness tricks and ways, and my Instagram as well. That's all my body art.
Cool.
So, my Instagram is at I am Annie Rees, and my YouTube is I am Annie Rees. Keeping it plain and simple there.
Yeah, I will link it all for everyone in the show notes so they will
Perfect.
have it. Yes.
Perfect.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you coming on the show. It was so wonderful to chat with you, and I hope that many people in this world get to experience your work because it is so cool.
Oh, same. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. I hope you learned something new and embrace being the student of your own life until the time we meet again. If you'd like a way to support the show and to hear more of this content, it means so much to me for you to take a few minutes out of your day to leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. I'd love to stay connected with you on Instagram or TikTok at Adriana Goes Creative. You can find me and hit follow while you're feeling inspired right after listening to the show. I can't wait to get a DM from you hearing what you loved about it and what you desire to hear more of. I appreciate each and every one of you so much. I'll talk to you soon. This podcast is for entertainment and general informational purposes only. I am not a licensed healthcare professional, and this podcast is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician or other qualified professional.